I think.
How many loud Jewish women does it take to screw in a light bulb? Find out next on NightTalk Free for All Night.
Very clever. Really. What? When I was...
Studio A, here's John McIntyre with you.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the broadcast. As you can see, I'm joined by two lovely accomplices who will be introduced momentarily, and hopefully I'll be joined by three lovely accomplices momentarily as well. We're live and in color from iTop Television Hill, Studio A. Georgie Porgy, the Animal Parfait, running the camera this evening. Executive producer Scott Jonesy Jones in the control room, along with Mary Patrick Gallagher. The artist formerly known as J.C. Smith pretended to be sick about half an hour ago, having claimed to have thrown up in the parking lot, and began muttering to himself and wandered away, and he went home. So he's not here tonight. None of us believe him, but of course, you know, you can't really say, oh, come on. Like, actually, Jonesy did say to J.C., hey, show me the barf. Let's see it. And he never did lead him to the barf.
I think I stepped in it.
All right, so here's... Well, you're bound to step in some of it when you venture into this territory, as both of these lovely human beings know. To my immediate left, Lynne Margoles, the TV and radio reporter for the Pittsburgh Tribune Review.
Right.
And just to her left, the lovely Lynn Cullen, of course, of PCNC every morning at 10 o'clock, plus WPTT radio every afternoon at noon.
That's amazing how you do that right off the top of your head and you don't miss a beat. That's impressive. Really?
It's not really impressive.
No,
I know.
Because little titles and
when I grow up, I want to be just like him.
Yeah, I mean, you know, you're smooth. Let's
also, due to be here this evening for an exciting Night Talk Free for All Night, during which we'll talk about impeachment. This book. Wait a minute, ladies and gentlemen. There's the chair where Sophie Masloff, the one, the only, the lovely, the talented, will hopefully soon be sitting. Our limo was late, apparently, and then she called up and she was sort of hacked off that the limo was late and was perhaps of a mind not to come at all.
Oh.
So we're hoping the limo showed up and she got in it. I continue to phone her house. There continues to be no answer. Lynn Cullen informs me she lives like, 2 minutes away from her.
Hey,
I could have just driven her here.
He didn't
but
send
we
a
are
limo for us.
disorganized. Well, you're not a former mayor and someone of her stature.
No, it's stupid. I was here and I thought, I should have picked up Sophie.
All right.
I figured that was going to happen.
That's all right. Well, it's all your fault. Once again, Lynn Cullen trying to make sure that she gets most of the airtime. Back in a moment, we'll see if Sophie shows up. If not, we'll continue the program with these lovely ladies and be joined by Sophie with the program already in progress, as they say. Stay with us on Night Talk Free for All Night.
Night Talk is sponsored in part by Steve Parson and Associates, your business and financial partners. By New Heart Hair Clinic, your expert solution in hair transplants and hair systems.
He called me tonight.
Back on Night Talk Free for All Night, happy as clams with the late arrival, and that's our fault, by the way, of the lovely and talented former Mayor Sophie Masloff.
She's angry.
What a snow job.
Fortunately not today.
Talented, I'm glad to be here, John. You know that.
You are lovely and talented. I really apologize for the follow-up that caused the late limo that resulted in your...
Well, I was beginning to think that you just didn't want me.
We always want you. Come on, wait a minute. I've invited you about half a dozen times, and you've accepted once, and that's because your friend Lynn Cullen was here.
Who forgot to pick her up.
I'll do anything I can to get you on the show.
This is great.
All right,
I'm just so honored to be here. You too.
All right, enough already.
Yeah.
Stop the
All right, and this is the first... you want what? You want to get mean now or something?
Yeah, let's rip somebody apart.
All right, should we start then with why men are...
Are what?
Okay, you want to... I don't know if you can read this. It actually spells out the word A-S-S-H-O-L-E-S.
Is that... Oh, no.
Yes.
That's terrible.
It does. Why men... Let's face it, men are blank.
Jerks. Why they're
yes.
jerks.
Yeah.
Now, this is a book. The name of the author is Joe Rock. Coincidentally, or not so coincidentally, you have him on your show this Monday.
Yes, I do.
And I have him on my show this Monday as well. So if you watch yours, don't watch mine.
No, but there
it's
is
like
a
a
Joe
national
Rock.
author, yeah. But do you agree with this premise? Let's face it, men are ass blanks.
Some of them are. We can't generalize. I know a couple that aren't too
sure we
bad.
can.
You know what?
Sophie knows two
Take
that
a
aren't
count about
bad.
one hand. I bet I could too.
But are any of us married? Are you
I am not married, never have been.
Never have been.
No.
I was married once.
I was married
and Sophie
once.
was married once.
All right.
I almost was once.
So we're like the three-time loser club
It was
here.
the best thing I never did. You know?
Is that right?
Yeah, because
So there's not a married person here now.
That's correct.
Which is why we can freely speak.
So let's shut this program down and go have some fun. What do you think?
That is, you know, what are we going to do?
Yeah, it's a gross
Sophie might run for
generalization.
office again. She's not going to offend 50% of the voters.
Right.
Well, if
I'm not, everybody assumes I hate men, so I'm not going to say anything.
I cannot believe I'm giving you guys a softball like this. I'm telling three intelligent, articulate women, I'm acknowledging that there's a good case to be made that men are ASS blanks and everybody's not biting.
Well, let me tell
I'm
you.
just so used to women putting down men, and perhaps justifiably, that I just figured this would really be the...
Your first inclination was to think that's a humor book, right?
I actually...
Mine was to think it's reality.
If somebody has a PhD dissertation or something, I mean, what's new? So what's new?
Okay, under the headline...
Tell us what we don't know,
I have something to say.
Under the headline of insensitivity, he listens, but you don't ever feel he really understands how you feel. He does what he wants to do, even if it bothers you, and makes little effort to change as he gets to know you better and learns what your real sensitive areas are. He repeatedly makes remarks that embarrass you in front of people. Those
I think you can find better examples than that. It gets worse.
Selfishness. He's like a kid. He does what feels good to him without regard for what you want. Now, that pretty much describes all men, doesn't it?
Well, now, this is absurd. This is absurd. People aren't individuals. I mean,
Yes,
of course.
I return to what Sophie says. There's one or two good guys out there.
Yeah.
Besides, John, you're pretty
I
brave
keep
to
waiting
take
to
on
meet them.
3 women.
Oh, I don't... No, I can't take on 3 women. Well, I could give it a try, but... just
The better
with
books
this
been
thing.
written. You know, the men are from
Mars and women are from Venus. So you don't think men are chumps, they're just different, and just as women are?
Yeah, we're sort of like two different kinds of species, I think. Don't you?
Yeah. I would have to say, I mean, you know, women's biggest gripe about men is the whole commitment thing, and you know, I'm sure the book doesn't get into that, but you know, you can't pick apart everybody's personality and generalize. Well, for a lot of
my biggest gripe is the toilet seat.
Well, that, yes. That goes without saying.
Well, my biggest gripe, of course, is particularly in Pittsburgh. We go back to the old ethnic groups where the men ruled the house, and somehow we can't grow out of that. We're 2 or 3 generations later, and we still put up with that, especially in Pittsburgh. It's worse in Pittsburgh than it is anywhere
It's a very
else.
traditional town.
In corporate Pittsburgh, in political Pittsburgh, Pittsburgh is in the dark age.
Oh, yeah.
Now you
the men here finally got something here, so the men here may be worse than elsewhere.
No, the men here are still enjoying the spoils of a totally sexist, chauvinistic, traditional system.
Right.
And for some reason, the city, it's the women in this city I'm angry at. They tolerate it. My understanding is fewer women in Pennsylvania vote than most other states. They don't run for office. They don't get involved. They don't demand things.
And when they do run, their platforms are so conservative.
That's because they grew up in that background. They grew up with that thought, and the men continue to keep it going.
Well, we could get into the larger issues of inequality that still occur in the workplace and everything, and it's still really bad out there.
Well, it was just William Jefferson Clinton the other night in the CNN address. They reminded us all that women are only making, I think it's 78 cents on the dollar.
Oh, it's not that high
compared
now.
to men. That's what he said, I believe.
That's right. By the year 2050, we might be making as much as you guys.
No, but I can tell you from experience that, you know, I have a lot of friends within a certain age range, a lot of female friends, and none of us have a boyfriend. And it's really true, the reputation this town has for being really rough on single women. They're just,
No kidding. I didn't realize that.
very true. It's very true.
Hell, forget it. If you're a single woman over
25, about
I was gonna
maybe
say
30.
30.
Maybe,
Okay.
or maybe 30. Yeah, forget it.
forget it.
Are you guys over 30? Any
Yes,
of you guys?
we're all over 30.
Okay, just
I would
didn't know.
freely admit that I'm over 30.
Forget it. I don't know where they are, but
Yeah,
forget it.
I have no idea.
And the
either.
ones you meet,
Yeah.
forget it.
Yeah.
Now that you're talking
you don't want
about,
the loser
now that you're
who's throwing
talking
beer on
about
you, you know, to steal the
hey, Lynn once told some person who told me that Lynn said that my insurance policy was signed by the original John Hancock. And I have never forgiven her for that.
You have a long memory, Sophie.
Yeah, not true.
Well, you know,
Not true.
and I didn't have to spike my Geritol to be here tonight either.
At least you haven't collected yet, you know?
But wait a minute. So,
I should have as much energy as this
do you still want to? Are you still out there in the dating world as well, Sophie? Because you certainly could be and should be, arguably.
No, not at all.
Like my mother, after she got divorced from my dad after 30 years, there was some farmer guy who asked her to marry him, and he actually had a few bucks, I guess. But she, at this point in her life, and I think she was in her 60s by then, just no longer interested. Just sort of had enough.
Well, I
had the
remember
marriage
I
for 30
asked you
years,
once if you were going out. You looked at me like,
How silly can you be?
what are you, nuts?
No, I was married for 50 years.
And that's enough.
And that's
Really?
it. I love my life as it is.
I was going to say, by then you must have felt rather free.
Yes, I did.
Yeah,
But it's true.
What else?
For single women, you know,
hell's house.
it's really bad.
And what, if anything, can be done to improve it, or is there no light at the
There
end of
really
the tunnel?
isn't any
no
hope. I mean, the only people out there are married men looking for a fling.
That's right. There's a bunch of Bill Clintons out there.
And you're not interested in that.
Well, I think it's a really compromising question, you know, a situation to be in. I don't think it's a good idea on anybody's
I
part.
noticed I can get a flat no out of that.
Well, no, I'm not interested.
None of your business.
None of your business.
That's good, yeah.
here.
I respond
None
well
of your
to that.
business.
It is none
Right.
of my business.
No.
Yeah. So anyway.
All right, well, let's take a commercial break. When we come back, we will talk about the aforementioned William Jefferson Clinton, one of the good guys, and the impeachment trial on Night Talk 3 for All Night. Stay with us.
The official transportation provider of Night Talk is Pittsburgh Limousine. Whether it's for business or a special night on the town, Pittsburgh Limousine is the one clear choice in transportation.
Back, I Talk. It's Free for All Night with the lovely and talented Lynne Margoles of Interview and Review, the lovely and talented Lynn Cullen of PCNC, and the lovely and talented Sophie Masloff of Pittsburgh and the Universe. Senator Robert Byrd, I don't know if you guys have heard this today, the crotchety old fellow who's been in the Senate since in middle of the 1800s, I think.
John Hancock.
Exactly, from West Virginia. Late today said he's going to introduce a motion to dismiss the impeachment case. No word on whether or not they'll actually be able to get 6 Republicans to change their mind and make the dismissal work. But that's considered a huge step because Clinton has been a big, or rather Byrd, has been a big critic of Mr. Clinton's.
They were thinking if any Democrat peel away and desert him, it'd be Byrd, and here he is making a motion to dismiss. They've been decimated, these Ayatollahs on the earth.
I still don't think they see the handwriting on the wall. I think they're going to get together.
They don't know how to get they're blinded by their billion hatred. They hate this guy so much. They're destroying themselves. I love it. I'm watching this thing and thinking, go ahead, keep doing it. That's right. Keep going.
So you agree that
this is like watching people commit suicide. They are kamikaze lunatics. Let them go.
Absolutely right.
And they're going to continue to be lemmings, and they're going to walk right into the sea, and they're going to drown come election time.
People are trying to save them.
But they're going to insist on calling witnesses, aren't they?
Nah, they might just do depositions and never call them, so we, the people, will never be privy to what they hear. But they can't stop. I mean, one Republican senator said something about, I think this train might not have no brakes. And it seems to have not had any brakes since day one.
Yeah.
Now, the only people driving that train are these lunatic Republicans out to get Bill Clinton. So if this train derails, ain't nobody going to get hurt but the Republicans. And I say, bravo.
Well, they should have seen that even sooner because, I mean, in the last election, I mean, look how badly they were trounced. And all along, everything has shown that the public is still supporting this guy. You know, I would have even been able to see the handwriting on the wall eventually.
Sophie, you've met Bill Clinton, I guess, right?
Oh, many, many times.
And you're pretty close to him?
Yes, and as I said, I can't see anything wrong no matter what he did.
Were you ever alone with Mr. Clinton?
I will tell you the truth, I don't know.
Depends on how you define alone.
That's right.
Yeah.
The implications of that question are...
But I've been to the White House. I had a Christmas party one year, and I sat and talked with him for a long time by myself, and of course I was overwhelmed. I just adore him.
So what is it? What's he got?
Yeah.
What is it?
Yeah.
Well, he's absolutely charming personally, but he is so knowledgeable, and he speaks so well on any subject. He convinces you, you know, that he knows all the answers, and I'm a pushover for that.
Is it true that he once called you? Is that story true?
That's absolutely
Do you know
Tell
the
us the story. No, I
Do
did not,
the
yeah.
story.
I'm sure everybody heard it,
No,
you know.
he said he never
Except
heard
me.
it.
I couldn't believe it. I picked up the phone. Now, you know, when he makes a call, several people would put the call through. When they got to my office, several people put the call through, too, and they say so-and-so's on the phone. And I picked up the phone, and then the voice on the other end said, "This is Bill Clinton, Sophie." I said, and I'm the clean the sheep in the bank, right down. And I said to the operator, "Who was it?" She said, "That was the president." And I said, "Well, why didn't you tell me that first?" She said, "Well, we didn't think you'd have to."
You hung up on him. Did he call back?
Oh, yes. And he laughed. He thought that was a great joke, but I was humiliated beyond
Oh, no. He probably did think it was funny.
He
You hung
loved
up
it.
on the president.
Yes, I hung up on
The first woman who played hard to get with him. I loved
Probably
it.
stammer and go, oh, is it really? Is it really?
I never knew. Every telephone call goes through so many hands at either end.
Well, so who did they tell you was on the line?
Nobody said when he got the office, or whoever got the office, assumed that I would recognize his voice or something, and that I wouldn't have to say the President
So he said,
Clinton.
Sophie, this is Bill Clinton.
Yeah, he said, Sophie, this is Bill Clinton. I said, yeah, and I'm the Queen of Sheba. Bang.
So did he ever get to what he wanted to call, what he called about?
Well, eventually we got together. I don't remember what the episode, what it was all about, but I was so humiliated. Imagine hanging up on
I can't remember. When the president called me last time, I can't remember what the hell he wanted. But I'm convinced that the Republicans won't be able to get a hold of themselves, so to speak. That I think the train is running down the track and it's going to crash into the light at the end of the tunnel, or whatever cliche I can come up with that means
No, the Senate
they're going to
Republicans,
keep going.
The Senate Republicans are a little less crazed than the House, so they'll be able to gain some control. This isn't going to go on much longer.
I don't know. I think they're going to have witnesses. I just don't think they can get a hold of themselves.
What disturbs me is I think that no matter how it ends, the damage has already been done in the eyes of the rest of the world, and I just...
And the longer it goes on, the more damage.
I just feel like damage to our credibility in some ways.
So not damage to Bill Clinton.
No, yes, damage in general as a nation for this whole episode being carried on to the level that it has been.
How did you get a job at the Tribune Review working for Richard Mellon Scaife and that hold similar views?
Take the fist, please.
Don't put her in that kind of position.
No, I invited her. I'm glad she's here.
But did you see Calvin Trillin's great little, he had a great column in which he compared Larry Flint to Richard Mellon Scaife.
No, I did not see that.
He said that they were, I guess it was Time Magazine had as their Men of the Year, Starr and Clinton.
Right.
And Trillin said another good pair would be Larry Flint and Richard Mellon Scaife. Both proffering money,
to dig up
coming
dirt.
from different sides to dig up dirt. The only difference is Scaife does it with some kind of a foundation so he can it's tax-free or something because he's a Republican. He knows how to do these things. Larry Flint just takes it out of his, his seamy back pocket and plops it down on the table and doesn't get the tax deduction.
There's an
he has
image.
enough money,
Larry
doesn't
Flint's
care.
seamy back pocket. There's an image.
Although Scaife denies emphatically that he had anything whatsoever to do with this. He says that every chance he gets.
Right. Well, he's an all of these Republicans are extraordinarily upstanding, moral people who never lie, and they are your social betters. Social betters, moral betters, in every way, shape, and form.
I have to say,
Yes,
I have to say, and I'm not just saying this because I think it's the politically correct thing to say, I really do believe that the situation that's going on right now, I don't think Scaife did have anything to do with, other than maybe he set up an 800 number to have people call in experiences of sexual harassment, etc. But I do think
that this was
the president's own undoing or doing, aided by people like Linda Tripp.
But
Richard Mellon Scaife.
Scaife Bennett. He spent a lot of money.
He dug up the dirt, which resulted in the Paula Jones suit.
Right, but I'm saying he certainly didn't put Monica Lewinsky there and cause that situation. That the president was stupid enough to do on his own.
Yeah, you got to give some. I agree that you have to give some blame to the president.
Yes.
And you know I'm a big Clinton defender.
However.
All right, let's take a break, and let's ask these women when we come back if Mr. Clinton is so charming that we've all been seduced into just giving away our moral compass, or something like that, on Night Talk Free for All Night when we come back. Back on Night Talk Free for All Night, Lynne Margoles of the Tribune Review, Lynn Cullen of PCNC, former Mayor Sophie Masloff. You were just espousing an interesting theory during the break that you blame Richard Nixon for this entire Clinton crisis in a roundabout way.
Because the whole climate of government and the pursuit of wrongdoings in terms of what the press will go after, what we accept in our leaders, that has all changed as a result of Watergate, and it's not the same game anymore. Certainly Gary Hart should have pointed, that was the next episode that taught us all that, the game has changed.
Watergate's certainly right, though, began the game of get the president, and it'll be a big feather in my cap if I can be one of the journalists that brings him down, which I think fed the media feeding frenzy in Washington for so long.
I wound up in journalism school not too long after that happened, and everybody assumed that was I wanted to become a journalist, and I can't say that that was actually it, but it certainly brought the level of what could be done as a journalist up to a different scale.
Yeah, you can bring down a president. Cool.
Yeah, I was very, one of my first jobs was in the early 80s, and of course Watergate was in the mid to late 70s. We were very, very mean to a governor of North Dakota, and we were all from out of the state. And I think actually we were influenced by that. I watched Sam Donaldson on the White House lawn every night being snotty to Jimmy Carter in the post-Watergate era, and I just thought, yeah, it's fun to be aggressive and mean, and the idea is to put these people down, which I'm not particularly proud of some of the early reporting.
No, I can't say that I joined into that school of it's fun to be aggressive and mean, but it certainly raised the level of skepticism among journalists. We were no longer able to look the other way. The attitude was, you know, investigative journalism. I mean, I don't know that the word existed together before Nixon.
But you mentioned how charming he is. Could it all be, and I think there's a Republican argument, that we've all been duped by his charm, by his feeling our pain, by his touchy-feely nature?
Well, that's not all of his attributes. I mean, he is more than charming. He's knowledgeable. He's intelligent. He has a good educational background. Charming is just one of the things.
The reason the Republicans hate his guts so much is because he absconded with their entire agenda, and he put it into play. He ended welfare as we know it. He balanced the budget. He took their entire, he co-opted it. They hate his guts for he took the rug out from under them. They've been talking, but doing nothing. He did.
Yeah, and apparently he put the rug underneath Monica Lewinsky.
But
what
about...
You know what, like, who, excuse me, who cares?
Oh, I don't care. But some people seem to care. And what about, you know, he took advantage of a subordinate. She was an intern. My goodness.
I don't
we should
think
burn him at the stake, shouldn't we?
was taken advantage of necessarily.
No?
I think
What does this have to do with anything? What does this have to do with whether he should be president of the United States?
We need somebody to set a good moral example for the country.
All right. You know what?
I'm just playing devil's advocate. I agree with you.
You know what? We're all sick of it.
Yeah.
They're sick of it, and we're sick of it.
That's
Sick of it.
Everybody's sick of it.
Everybody has sort of said where they stand, right? Nobody's mind's changing. You see those polls staying steady for how many months now? Nothing changes anything. The trial, the this, the that, everything.
But yet they don't get it.
They don't get it.
Yet
But we all get it. Just because they don't get it means, you know what? Nobody gives a darn.
I'm not ashamed to say that I haven't even been following any of this because I'm so bored with it. I just can't. Why should I waste my time, you know?
And calling the witnesses are no solution because we know what they're going to say. It's all been said.
Like, excuse me, Monica Lewinsky's already been asked these questions 22 times under oath. They want 23? And I guess, I know, the senators are supposed to look in her eye.
Yes, and judge her mood and tone.
And then they're supposed to divine whether or not she's telling the truth. It is so much hooey. It is ridiculous. And as Lynn said, it's the kind of thing that holds us up as a nation to such ridicule around the globe.
That's true.
If I were her, I would leave the country. I mean, everywhere I go, I was in New Orleans last weekend, the T-shirt shops, you know, everything has, you know, the cigar joke things and stuff. I mean, you can't escape it. It's just ever present. And if I were her, I would be under a rock hiding from embarrassment myself.
All right, so will the Republican Party suffer at the polls in the election of the year 2000? Or will the American public, does it have a short memory, they'll all forget about it? And
not if I have anything to say about it.
Well, you know, you can't tell till the votes are counted. That's an old political saying, and I think that holds true. You never know till the votes are counted what people are going to be doing. By that time, they may have forgotten all about this and go on from there. Of course, his heir is the vice president, and I think he's the one that's going to suffer.
And the next president in general is going to suffer, but Al Gore might have trouble making the White House. Well, I have this sense that maybe the Republicans can get the White House back, but I think they might lose the Congress.
Yeah, but they're going to put Quayle up. Let's face it.
No, they can't.
What is wrong with that guy? Here's the guy who doesn't get it. We're still not through ridiculing him. If he comes back up, Leno and Letterman are going to be after this guy every night. He's still a national joke.
Hey, put him in a spelling bee.
He's running again. What's wrong with him?
And what about Mrs. Running?
Mrs. Dole.
Yes.
Liddy.
I don't think she has
Yes, would that be good? Because you're women, and we need women to lead the way to the promised land, do we not?
Women with the right political agenda.
Right.
Why, just because somebody's got breasts, I don't vote for them.
Right.
No?
No.
Of course. Well, I don't think she has a shot either at it.
No, I don't think she's
I
got
wouldn't elect
shot
a woman
either.
president if she was out there marching with Operation Rescue if she was the last woman on Earth.
Was she marching with Operation
No, I
Rescue?
think if there was a woman running for, we've had them in Pennsylvania, women who, just because they're female, if, that particular issue is one that is probably what I most strongly use as my barometer when I vote. And if there were a woman candidate who was such a polar opposite of my feeling on that subject, there's no way I'd vote for her. I don't care if she's a woman or not.
I guess Geraldine Ferraro may have proved that just because a woman's on the ticket doesn't mean that women are going to come out and vote in droves for that candidate.
What nonsense.
No. Well, then why? So they don't even need Elizabeth Dole, so to hell with her. All right, so, and Sophie, you're running again, speaking of prominent
No,
women.
I'm not.
You're not?
No.
I'm really sorry to hear that. You're not going to run for county
I'll say I said in the
council?
first place that I was going to run to get rid of everybody who wanted me to support them. And I thought, this is a good way out. I said to everybody, well, no, I can't support you because I'm running myself. But I think it's wrong for a woman my age to run, frankly.
Why?
Because the people don't want old people. The population doesn't want old people.
She would be representing the population.
Yeah, you'd be representing the majority of the population in the county.
To begin with, running for offices is not easy. And this whole new setup is so complicated, I don't think they'll ever get it off the ground in our lifetime. Frankly, I think there'll be any number of court cases where everybody's going to, women and the Afro-Americans, everybody will say they're being discriminated against, they're not getting what they wanted. I think it's going to be a murder until it gets off the ground. Now, it's going to be like the city, a strong leader type of government. All of these 15 people who are going to be elected at large, I don't think they're going to have a say in anything. It's like like the city of Pittsburgh Council don't have much of a say.
Right. Mm-hmm. It's going to be it's going to be a strong executive government. That's the way they made it up. That's what it's supposed to be. But do you
But I
think
thought
it's
we learned
possible
that Mo, Larry, and Curly didn't work, and that's why we...
yeah, well, that's what we thought. Give it to one guy and let him... and certainly it's going to be a guy, because around here, heaven knows a girl can do the job.
Right.
Hey, as a white female approaching middle age in Pittsburgh, I have to leave.
Back in a moment, more free for all night.
You mean the majority of the... So much grayer.
Back on Night Talk with Free For All Night, Sophie is commenting on how my hair has gotten much grayer since the last time she was on the program. Your hair has actually gotten redder, Sophie.
Of course. I don't have a
Something you don't say to a woman, and it probably is in that
Is that
book.
one of them? I'm sorry.
Now
Commenting on hair color after a certain point in life.
It is good to have you. In fact, I wish you were running for county executive. But does anybody have anything to say about any of these lovely candidates that are running for county
Oh,
executive?
who cares? Is Tom Forster running?
No.
No.
I don't think so. Yeah, of course, he doesn't confide in me. We were never friends.
But here's the thing. Apparently, there's going to be so many people running that the people, the names that leap out will be the same old, same old. That's who's going to get elected, right? People with
For
names
the
like...
15-member
Name
council.
recognition, of course.
Yeah.
The biggest threat, I think, is that the common police court judges, there's 6 vacancy, and 70 people are going to run in the hope that they'll get one of the first 6 spots.
Right.
And so I think that's a bigger danger to the community.
Something is wrong here.
How does it work? First come, first serve? Whoever gets the signatures in initially gets the next spot on the ballot?
You draw. It's a lottery.
Okay. Oh,
Yeah, what spots you get on the ballot. And the machine will say, vote for 6. Well, if you happen to be one of the 6, the average person never goes to court in their lifetime. They'll just vote for the first 6. And that's what a lot
Really?
of...
Is that what
Oh,
they do?
yeah.
There's something that's wrong with Democrats.
I don't know.
Yes.
Well, there
They
is.
go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's what they do.
A lot of them do.
Well, a lot of them who are uninformed but still feel the need to vote without being informed might go in there and have that reaction or vote straight party without doing the research.
How can you research 70 people?
I don't know.
Nobody
You
knows
can't.
who any of
Right.
these people are. Here's what
Right.
people do. You say you're Italian. You look for
Exactly.
Italian names. Say you're into women on the bench. You look for women. Say you're Jewish. You look for Jews.
Or name recognition.
Or name recognition. Oh, I know a guy named Weck, a guy named Flaherty, a guy named Zara. It just...
Is Sophie Italian?
I don't believe so.
I don't
But so, how about the names? Do they do anything for you? You know, Larry Dunn, the magical, mirthful, majestic county commissioner. Larry Dunn.
How come everybody who is in a position to say anything thinks the guy is a total joke? And yet he's a force.
Well, all the polls show that the 3 commissioners, first primaries out of it, but all the polls that I've seen, and they take polls every hour on the hour these days, they don't have a shot. Any of the commissioners. Any of the three commissioners.
So the two candidates are going to be, it's going to be quite a race. Cyril Wecht versus Jim Roddy.
That's what it looks like today.
That's what it looks like.
And
that's quite
and
a
who do we like with that stellar
pair
crew?
Now,
there,
the problem, of course, is you never know. You remember what happened to Truman. You never know what can happen at the last minute. And, you know, the old saying, whoever gets the most votes will win. And we never know. We never know how it's going to turn out.
Will you be a good party line person and vote for the Democrat, whoever it is, or are you just going to see who's on the Republican side?
Well, I have to admit I'm a Democrat, and I'm partial to Democrats.
But
Roddy has built up a really good power base in this town, though. Roddy. I mean,
oh, yeah.
You know.
Although, listen, when he gets on the air with that Rex Butler Southern accent, I don't know how that's going to go.
But Wecht, as brilliant as he is, he's got some people who don't trust him. You know, Wecht.
I know that.
You know.
Yeah, he's got a lot of enemies, but he seems to have outstanding name recognition.
Oh, yeah.
And some people tell me he may have, I don't know, let's just say gotten a little more popular by trying to stay out of controversy.
He's frankly an engaging guy in his own way, in some ways, you know?
Well, I think both, it seems to me that both Roddy and Wecht are at least intelligent, capable human beings.
Right.
Neither perfect, but if that's the choice, no matter who wins, Allegheny County will not have a fool at the helm, which is something we have had in recent memory.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
All right, how about somebody who's not running for election anytime soon, but Sophie's old buddy, Tom Murphy. He made everybody mad in the legislature. He screwed up the snow removal, and now you never see the guy. He's the incredible shrinking mayor. At least I never see him. And
Sophie doesn't like him, I don't like him, and Lynn, I don't.
Well,
oh, sure, just cut the whole... I could have killed the whole segment with that, Lynn. What?
I've had my differences with him, but I do think he's the mayor now, and I think we all support.
But what is it about? But he does seem to have some sort of quality which irritates some people on a one-on-one basis. I personally found him quite pleasant when he's come on the program. I have no problem.
Sure, but
I've never had to do any politicking.
Somewhat ineffectual in a lot of ways in terms of the expectations that he went into office with. I know people who supported him, who helped him get there, who wound up
furious with him. That's what happens.
Why?
Everybody gets mad.
Why do these people jump ship?
For reasons that
his personality.
That is absolutely right.
There's more than just that. It's some insider stuff that I don't necessarily know, but some things that went on that they felt were rather unkosher and jumped out before it affected them.
See, when you're a SCAPE employee, you just spread the vague dirt and hope it sticks.
I always thought Ann Devlin, my former colleague, had the best adjective for him ever. It's a word that you don't hear very often, but it so fits Tom Murphy. And she said it to his face, and his reaction proved the point. She said, you know, Tom, you're peevish.
That's exactly
Isn't that it? Nailed it. He's peevish.
Yes.
And his reaction was he got peevish. If Tom Murphy were a woman, everybody would point to him as a reason why you can't have women in elected office. He's peevish. He's hysterical. He's overly emotional. It's that time of month or something with him. Who knows what goes on with this guy? That's exactly what they would say.
And he's stubborn.
He's stubborn. He's got all of these sort of personality traits that don't serve him well. I think he's well-intentioned. I think he's a capable person in a lot of ways. I don't mean to... I think he's a good human being.
Seems to be a good policy wonk, capable of understanding the complex problems.
But he's not charismatic, and he's not a leader. And I don't know that he's a visionary either. He is he does not inspire in the way Bill Clinton obviously seduces and inspires.
Those are the biggest criticisms I've heard about him, is that he is not a leader and he's not a visionary. And the problem for us in Pittsburgh is that we have had visionary mayors, and we have had the standards to look up to. And, you know, I think in some ways we were lucky that there was a David Lawrence, that there was a Flaherty, that there was, you know, early on, once upon, I don't mean, you know who I mean, Caligiuri.
Why are we both looking at you like what?
Yeah, no, I meant Caligiuri, you know, I mean, we've had some luck, you know, and
speaking of visionary, Sophie, didn't you call for a new ball stadium?
I know, I
like,
love
what, a decade ago or something?
6 years ago, when I was in office. Oh, I was hell-bent. I loved the idea, and I had in the house, draw plans. Oh, I went all out. My God, they killed me.
Oh, they killed her.
That's why I couldn't believe you didn't just stand right up there and go, I told you so.
Yeah. Well, I did. They ridiculed her. I remember I went, when the paper had the news that morning, I went on the air at 9 o'clock over on the old radio station I used to be on, and I said, what a great idea. I thought Sophie had the greatest idea in the world. I'm a baseball fan, thought it was, and then the derision. Oh my God, by the time the 6 o'clock news was on, it was like, what does that lady know about? What is she talking about? It was the newspapers dumped on her, the top sports talk shows, everybody. They couldn't stop laughing.
And they're all men.
Exactly. And that's why the situation is so hard.
They'd apologize.
All right, let's take a break. Free for all night with the visionary Sophie Masloff and the lovely and talented Lynne Cullen and Lynne Margoles. Back in a moment. Back on Free For All Night, last segment with our dangerous divas. Sophie Masloff, we have confirmed, is not running for county council. Is that true? You're definitely not?
Yeah, I've just about made up my mind.
All right. Well, that's actual news then. We've broken news on this.
Yes, I never admitted before that I wasn't because I was trying to keep out of the field.
Well, now you're going to get all these calls.
Because she's building up that media personality career.
But exactly. You have apparently embarked upon a huge advertising career. People want you to endorse their products.
Absolutely unintentional, and I had no agent. It never occurred to me that anybody would want. Here's this lady with this huge bouffant and squeaky voice and no other attributes. Certainly not attractive or any of those things.
You're a legend. You're a Pittsburgh
well,
legend.
Thanks for being a legend.
And that voice distinguishes you because you're the only one who has it.
Right here. No attributes.
Well, and Myron Cope, one of your advertising partners, also has a distinctive voice. You did a spot with him, right?
I thought it was a great pairing.
One of my own, and I had 13 of my own, and it was so unexpected. It still is. When they call me now, I can't believe that there's.
You should play hard to get now. You're hot. You need an agent.
You know I'm not hard to get.
No, that's true.
Only if the liver's there at the wrong time.
Only if you're Bill Clinton trying to reach her. Are you hard to get? Otherwise, she's easy.
All right, the police officers in this town, are things getting better with the recent spate of publicity over shootings?
Yeah, couldn't you give us a break? It's fun to talk about.
How about who's going to win the Super Bowl?
You're trying to get fired, first of all. And then,
I'm rooting for Atlanta over Denver because I'm still mad at Denver for beating the Steelers 2 years ago in the championship game.
You're rooting for Atlanta?
I'm rooting for Atlanta over Denver because Denver beat the Steelers not last year but the year before.
Yeah, but
Come to think of it, I can't root for
Denver is the underdog, and I think they deserve a break.
Yeah, but see, Denver beat my Green Bay Packers, so to hell with them.
You're mad at them for beating the Steelers. I had a ticket to go cover the Super Bowl that the newspaper was going to send a whole team of us.
Exactly. I was going to get to go too.
And which leads me to the segue. You better make sure I still have a job when I get off this show.
How can I do that?
I don't know. Figure out a way.
Call my buddy Dick Ellen Skate.
Richard.
Yeah, you haven't said anything.
Okay.
Plan B, is it going to pass the House? Does anybody care?
I think eventually it'll pass.
Do you?
I do believe it will, because I think they'll keep giving in. You know, they'll keep giving Philadelphia if they want, and all these little counties around here everything they want. In the end, it'll end up with a huge bond issue that they'll never, ever get paid off. The interest alone will come out of the budget, out of each budget, and that will be enormous.
Go ahead. You know, I think a lot of people have no idea whatsoever what bonded indebtedness is, and have absolutely no idea that the taxpayers are on the hook to pay off these bonds.
Well, they never paid them off. They never paid off. The stadium still hasn't been paid off. And so, but as in every budget, the interest on these bonds come out of taxpayers' pockets, so that eventually you pay
figure out who puts up these bonds in the first place, knowing that the record of payment is so bad. I mean,
well, they get their interest. They get their interest regularly, and they eventually get more than the principal and interest alone as years go on.
Does anybody care if we take some of this money that is a so-called surplus and invest it in the stock market for Social Security, or should we provide a tax cut for all Americans?
I do.
Or what about, as I understand it, and I don't have the exact figure, we still owe something like $5 trillion. In other words, even though we still have even though we allegedly have a balanced budget, because year by year we're not spending more than we're taking in, we still owe. There's still a debt. It is not a deficit, but it is a debt of something like $5 trillion and maybe a little more.
Accounting has got to be one of the most creative businesses around.
Flim-flammery. It's a shell game. It's insanity. I don't know.
Manipulation of numbers. Yeah, exactly.
What the hell?
Hell, I took Mickey Mouse math in college. I couldn't cope with it.
All right, so nobody cares if we save Social Security?
We don't care about a damn thing.
No, I think Social Security would be ideally a nice thing to save.
You get at your age, both of you should be worried about saving Social
No,
Security.
apparently it's okay for us. How old are you?
I'm 21.
Nah, well, she has maybe a slight concern, but nah, we're home free, so what do we care?
Don't admit to it.
No, really? You think
Now the
women
whole
should
world
lie
knows
about
my
their
actual
age?
age, you know?
Well, of course. How else do you stay young?
Wait, how did I get into telling you guys what my age is? I haven't heard that.
Sophie just told me we're supposed
Women
to lie
should lie about their
women
age.
should lie about their age.
That's how you stay young.
Have you...
Well, the way I look at it is considering the alternative, what difference does it make what my age is?
Well, in a world in which women are, making 78 cents for every buck and looked at still as sex objects and can't find men if they're over 30, then I think maybe Sophie's right. We should listen to Sophie and the voice of experience and lie about our age. Get away with whatever you can. So how young could I be?
You could be pretty young. I would think she could be pretty young.
I know I don't
Then
look
you
my
make the
age.
call.
I know I don't.
I look older on TV. I do.
Do you really?
So, yeah,
I probably
no matter
do
what
too.
you say.
TV does that to everybody.
They wouldn't know what spring chickens and gorgeous babes we really are if they haven't seen us. We could meet you somewhere after the show.
Right.
and you could
We'll
do
be
it.
at
Really?
All right, well, I hope to persuade them to meet me somewhere after the show because I can clearly see that they are indeed spring chickens, gorgeous babes, hot mamas, and whatever other
and there will be no cigars involved.
Clinton-esque adjective you want to apply. Thank you very much, Lynne Margoles, for coming on the program.
You're welcome.
Lynn Cullen, it was wonderful to have you.
Excuse me?
Whatever. Sophie Masloff, it was. Thank you so much for showing up despite our horrible, lousy limo.
But she's never coming back.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't say that.
Pleasure to
And to the limo people, I apologize, kind of, sort. I don't know. We'll find out who screwed up. Anyway, back in a moment with the commentary and a preview of the 10 o'clock news on True for All Night. Let's get a preview of the 10 o'clock news now from David Johnson.
John, thank you very much. Is underage drinking a bigger problem now than it was a couple of years ago? Well, a local community group says yes. We'll hear what teenagers have to say in a live report. We have shocking new information in a Target 11 investigation into a deadly shooting in the Armstrong tunnels. We've been telling you about that. A local woman says her dog was accidentally put to sleep at a local animal shelter. A big mistake there. We'll have her story about that. C.S. Keys will have your weekend forecast. John has the sports. I'll have the news all at 10. Back to you.
Thank you, sir. Tonight's commentary. I have finally figured out why the Republicans have been unwilling to end the biggest waste of time and money since Strom Thurmond picked up a hooker. At first, I thought it was a mental block. I assumed one of these blockheads had gone mental and were incapable of dealing with reality. Then I realized it must be a physical problem. The weather's been lousy in Washington for the last few weeks. Clearly, the Republicans all caught colds and had stopped-up noses. Let me label this the Great Booger Theory. You see, these boogers would then represent the true obstruction of justice in Zippergate. Because of them, these postnasal drips have been unable to wake up and smell the freaking coffee. It's over, fellas, but you can't admit it. You can't even utter the words no conviction. You're still insisting on witnesses and a trial and months and months and months. Senator Robert Byrd is a Democrat, but has been a Clinton critic from the word go. Nobody knew what he was going to do until today, when Mr. Byrd issued a statement announcing he will introduce a motion to dismiss. Why? Simple. Robert Byrd may be old and feeble, but he can still count. And he realizes there will never be enough defecting Democrats to join the defective Republicans. Can the Republicans not count? They appear to be able to count the number of times Betty called Monica. They can count the number of times that Clinton got a little Lewinsky in the Oral Office. Henry Hyde can at least count to 12 since he's constantly surrounded by a dozen house managers and untold boxes of donuts. Could these political obstructionist boogers have grown into giant brain-clotting monster boogers? That's the only explanation I can think of, because despite the fact that there is some room for optimism and common sense appears to be seeping into some senators' heads in small doses, Mr. Hyde and his jackals are dying to ask Monica about Clinton's gifts and whether they included a pearl necklace. The longer it drags on, the worse it is for Republicans. The Republicans insist on dragging it out anyway. More evidence that the Great Booger Theory may just have some credibility after all. Because the only way this thing will end is if the Republicans remove their noses and the rest of their heads from their rather expansive posteriors and clear their heads once and for all of these giant obstructionist boogers with one giant blow. Which wraps the whole thing up with a certain symmetry when you think about it. And that's commentary, ladies and gentlemen. David Johnson straight ahead with the 10 o'clock news. Have a great weekend, everyone.